All right. Hello, everyone. We're going to be waiting a few minutes while people start to trickle into the event. Looks like right now we have 4 people. We're going to be waiting a few minutes while people start to trickle into the live event. In the meantime, please let us know where you're watching from today. Go ahead and type it in the chat boxes. We'd be super interested to see where everybody's watching from.
Hola, Gloria.
Hola, Gloria.
Oh, mira, Jeanette. Sí, Fresno.
Jeanette, we do have I think we do have a chapter out in Fresno in the Central Valley.
We do, yeah.
Cool. So here in the Bay Area, the Bronx, New York.
Wow.
That's super cool.
Oh, look at my hometown too, San Jose. Woo-hoo.
San Diego, La Habra, Berkeley, Menlo Park off the grid.
Off the grid in Menlo Park. Wow.
Oh,
I want to go.
I know, right? Vamos.
Oh, we're actually seeing some familiar names in here too. Welcome, everyone. Welcome.
Yeah, hola, hola. Los Angeles, Livermore.
Aurora.
Sí, hola.
Mountain View, San Rafael, Pacifica.
Yeah, so New York City also has a chapter. I've actually met a couple of the people out there. They're really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Carmen, you got a shout out.
Oh,
Gloria.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Gloria. Hi. It's nice to see everyone.
The Latino Conservation Week Facebook is also watching us. That's pretty cool.
Oh, awesome. Very cool. Nice. Yeah, there's a mix of like local folks and from all over different states.
Wow, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh, hola, hello.
Well, we're going to start introducing ourselves while people start trickling in. We're going to go in the order that you see in front of you. So it'll be me, then Carmen, then Jennifer, then Esme. So my name is Brian Rodriguez. I am the program coordinator for the South Bay area in California. We work directly with Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space. So we all kind of work together, do events here in the Bay Area. And we do have a question for all of us on here right now, which is, how have you been able to experience nature during this time? For me personally, it has been a little bit hard. What I've been doing is kind of taking a couple of walks, going outside, just taking in a little bit of sun. And then going on hikes with at least one other person, sometimes whether it be a family member or with a friend. But usually I only do it with one friend so that we can maintain nice social distancing. Carmen?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. My name is Herman Lau, Public Affairs Specialist at Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. I'm really excited to be here with you all virtually, and thank you so much for joining us. I know there's so many things that you guys can be doing, so we really appreciate that you're here watching with us and learning and hopefully taking away something great this evening with us. How have I been able to experience nature during this time? I've been enjoying my neighborhood parks, really taking advantage of that more, visiting and walking over to the local park in my neighborhood a few times during the week just to recharge and get some steps in. And it's nice to just have some of that routine. And also, during the pandemic, I've been able to garden a little bit more or explore gardening. I've never really done it before, but I've been learning how to do that a little bit. And I was telling Brian and Jennifer and Esme earlier, I started growing this very small zucchini plant a couple of months ago, and just this week they have blossomed and grown to about this big, and now it's almost harvest time. So that's really exciting. And that's pretty much what I've been doing to experience nature lately.
And hi, I'm Jennifer Adams. I am the San Francisco Bay Area Regional Coordinator here for Latino Outdoors here in the Bay Area in California. We're really excited to be able to do this virtual event here for you guys for Latino Conservation Week. And for me, during this time, experiencing the outdoors, kind of been doing a few different things. Like Carmen mentioned, I've been lucky enough to have a nice sized yard that I've been able to do a lot of gardening. Spending time outside has always have helped me out. Take my dogs out for some walks. It got to the point during the beginning of the pandemic that my dogs didn't want to go walking with us anymore. We had walked them too much. So now we do shorter walks with them. And if we want to walk on our own a little longer, we do. Just trying to kind of stay, a lot of times just walk around the block. Was able to, though, this weekend. I went over to actually one of Mid-Pen's other preserves, Piketty, and me and my friend went hiking over there, and it was just really nice to be able to go out. We went super early, so we didn't really, interact with too many people, and it was just really nice to actually like go out on a trail again too. So that was really fun.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Me llamo Esme Cabrera, volunteer outings leader with Latino Outdoors for a couple of years now. Introduced to all of it by Jennifer here. So how do I experience nature during this time? I get out super local, backyard, tend to the compost pile, which I've talked to these guys about. And also I go often to our bayshore. I'm really lucky to be really close to the bayshore, and I get to go bird there, just go enjoy the fresh air there. And that's how I've been able to enjoy the outdoors right now.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for sharing. I'm going to do a little bit of agenda just because we want to be wary of everybody's time. So Carmen, if you could go to the agenda slide really quickly. So we are starting with introductions. We will be watching the pre-made video at 5:45. At 6 to 5, we will have a Q&A session just so that you are aware of both of those times. In case you need to drop off at any time, that is perfectly fine. This video is also being recorded and should be up on Mid-Pen's YouTube as well. So if you can't catch everything, that's perfectly fine. We're going to introduce the two different organizations as well for those of you who might not know either. So we'll start off with Latino Outdoors. So Latino Outdoors, essentially we try to provide members of the Latinx community and other underrepresented communities with transformative outdoor experience, right? The whole idea is that we want to provide not just leadership, but also to change the narrative of outdoor engagement with diverse communities. Jennifer, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, we're just with Latino Outdoors, we're a grassroots organization. So we're really lucky that our organization is a nonprofit, right? And we run by the volunteers, right? So Gente de la Comunidad, right? They want, to get Latino communities outdoors, and they're making it happen in all these regions. If you look on our website, you have all these different regions throughout the nation, and it's because the volunteers wanted to do the work in their communities. So, if you're interested, we did make a Google form that we'll share about volunteering here locally in the Bay Area, but also too, if you're interested in volunteering or just learning a little bit more, go onto our website and take a look and see what we offer. And if you're interested in volunteering, there's a form there you can fill out also, just to show you're interested. And, get out there, and especially during Latino Conservation Week, right? One thing that you can do to give back is, to give back to your community by volunteering. So we really want to talk just a little bit broadly about what we do here in the Bay Area, right? A lot of times we do these with Mid-Pen is we try to focus on our comunidad, right? And we try to make sure that all our events that we do are family-friendly events. So anything ranging from like a hike to backpacking or camping, we always make sure that we can bring our abuelitas, our mamás, right? Las primas, las amigas, right? To make sure that it's really, we're trying to invite everyone in the community. So we really make sure to focus on that we can make those events family-friendly for everyone. Of course, we want to make sure that we're building community while we're doing this, right? So we have a lot of our community joining us right now, right? And others that, maybe part of another community with our national team. But we really want to make sure when we do these events that we really focus on that. And so, we really focus a lot when we do events is, we were all talking about too, how we miss sharing food with each other, right? That's a big part of our cultura is, right, sharing food. And that really helps us with building community is sharing the moments, especially con comida. And then, of course, right, because it is Latino Conservation Week, right, we really wanted to highlight also stewardship, right, so giving back to the spaces that we do go and enjoy, right, so we do those one part with service projects that we do with Mid-Pins, but also too throughout different regions, right, we do service projects to give back to our community. And even one of those pictures there, we were at Yosemite, and we gave back and did some cleanup. So, you know, giving back is really important when you're recreating in those spaces. That's our part that we can do to kind of help with conservation.
Great. And next I'll talk a little bit more about Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District, or Mid-Pen for short. Our mission is to acquire and protect and restore the natural environment and provide opportunities for ecologically sensitive public enjoyment and education. In 2004, Mid-Pen expanded its boundaries to the San Mateo County coast area and developed a second mission statement to preserve viable agriculture in that region. A little bit more about us. We are a public agency created in 1972 by Grassroots Voter Initiative. We have a board of directors, 7 board of directors, and we are primarily funded through property taxes. We have 26 open space preserves in 3 counties, Santa Clara, San Mateo, and Santa Cruz County, and with nearly 65,000 acres of open space land and over 240 miles of amazing trails. All of our preserves are free and open to the public, and we have about 180 employees and nearly 1,000 volunteers. So we do have a huge volunteer pool and a lot of people engaged in our volunteer programs. Here is a map of our district, and also on the right-hand side, the names of all of our preserves. You might be familiar with some of them. Our most popular is Rancho San Antonio in Cupertino. Prisma, yes, that one is also very popular and beautiful during this time. That's located close to Half Moon Bay. And kind of everything in between. And today we will be showing a virtual hike at Sierra Azul, which is one of our most southern preserves. And you can find all of our information about these preserves, the directions, the trails, all that on our webpage, openspace.org, and we'll share that resource out too.
Cool. And finally, since this is Latino Conservation Week, you know, we thought that it would be great to have this event during this week. And, you know, so the 3 big tenets are engaging, experiencing, and advocating, right? You will see that we do, in the video, we will talk a little bit about, you know, the experience, our own experiences on the trail. You know, we advocate for not picking these wildflowers, you know, and right now we are engaging with you as a community, right? So without further ado, we will present the video now. Remember, oh yeah?
No, go ahead. I'll talk after.
Remember that we will be having a Q&A afterwards, so please feel free to submit any questions during the video. We're going to be filtering through them throughout the video and try to consolidate as many as we can, because we want to get to as many questions as we can. That being said, were you going to say something, Carmen?
Yeah, so we're just really excited to be showing you this virtual wildflower video and unveiling it out to everyone. I just wanted to give a shout out to Brian and Jennifer and the whole LO team really for helping us put this together. They were the ones who scouted out and went out to Sierra Azul to create this video, and we've put in a lot of energy and time into making this video and this experience. So I just want to give a big thank you to them, and we really hope that you guys enjoy it. So
all right, here we go. So
Bienvenidos, welcome. My name is Jennifer from Latino Outdoors. We are here at one of Mid-Peninsula's regional open space district preserves. This is Sierra Azul Open Space Preserve. We are here we're going to be talking about some wildflowers. So, Mid-Pen has made this really great PDF that we printed out that we can use to try to find some wildflowers today. So we're going to use this today to go out there and try to find some wildflowers. So, feel free to upload this onto your phone or print it out and do some wildflower hunting. So while you go out to these trails, we always want to make sure that we're using social distancing rule, right? Because of COVID-19. So Midpen has done a really great job of having these boards up for everyone to see. Make sure that you follow these. And also, before you even come out to the trail, make sure that, you know, there's different counties, so there's different rules. So make sure that you are abiding by those. So like right now we are in Santa Clara County. I live in Santa Clara County, so I'm abiding by the rules of my county that I live and also the place that we're at. So we want to make sure that we're staying 6 feet apart from people. We want to make sure that we are, you know, using soap and hand sanitizer to wash our hands. I have hand sanitizer in my bag today just to make sure if I touch anything that I can hand sanitize my hands. If we are coughing and sneezing, try to use a tissue or an elbow. Don't congregate in groups. So if you're coming out, really just come out with people that you live with. And if you do decide for any reason to go with somebody outside of your home, making sure to always keep that at least 6 feet distance apart from each other. Don't take hands or hugs. Sé que todos queremos dar un abrazo, right? But we can give each other air hugs and air kisses, right? And, you know, to show each other that we love each other. And then don't get in close contact with sick people, right? So I'm trying to, you know, abide by these rules, making sure that I have my hand sanitizer, right? I have, it's been really useful to have a bandana. So when you're passing by people, right, to cover yourself up really quickly. So you're not in close contact with anybody that can breathe in any of the air that you are breathing out. So bandana for me has worked when I go hiking. So then I can still feel like I'm getting that fresh air, but I am also protecting myself. But now that we know all the rules and that we know where we're at, let's go and go look for some wildflowers. Vámonos. Not too far off from the trail, we've already found some wildflowers here. So we have our Wildfire Survey, and this is for the Sierra Azul Open Space Preserve. So it's the 100 most common species. So hopefully this is one of those common species, and let's take a look if we can find out how to identify it. So the nice thing about this map is that they've kind of sectioned it off by colors. So we don't have to be the best about identifying wildflowers, but as long as we can know the color, right, we could try to find it. So this is kind of a pink color. So let's take a look and see if we can find it. So to me, it kind of looks like 4-spot Clarkia. But from looking at it, if you see here, there's a long picture and then a close-up. The close-up doesn't actually really look like this. So let's see on the other page if it might be on here. And this is the beauty when we go outdoors, right, is we don't need to know everything, right? We can have some tools to help us. And if not, you know, just enjoy what we see. And that can be something that we can take back, take a picture and try to identify it later. Or, right, if like this is a guide to help us, right? If we don't find it on here, there's another app that we can use that can help us on our phones. I'm not sure if anybody has heard of it, but it's iNaturalist. And so let's actually take a picture of this and see if it can help us identify it. So there's our wildflower there. So we have those in our iNaturalist app. And so it gives you a possible suggestion, right? So even if it's just the family, not exactly the full species of it, we can also then have some other people help us identify it. So we'll take a look here. So let's go ahead and we'll just share this and we can take a look at it later and do some more identification when we get home with that. So, and we could talk more about iNaturalist too, which is a great tool to use while we're outside on our own hitting the trails. Come on, let's go. So we're on the trail, right? And I want to just identify something just to make sure when you go out that you know what this is. And, you know, always when you're on the trail, stay on the trail, right? So if I stepped off the trail here, you'll see that there are this plant here, right? And it has leaves of 3. This is poison oak, right? It has different stages throughout the year. So right now it's spring, right? So it is actually blooming and growing and it's green. So some of them are, you'll see the newer leaves are lighter green. The older leaves are darker green. This does produce berries, right? So it is food for animals here on the preserve. So it is a native species, right? It is part of the ecosystem here, but we want to avoid this. It provides a really gnarly rash on your hand. And if you're super allergic to it, it can get really nasty. So as long as you stay on the trail, right, and we want to avoid poison oak, right, leaves of 3. They say, as a little saying, let it be. Poison oak is kind of shiny sheen to it, and the stem is hairless, right? This is poison oak, and we want to avoid it. Traje mi mamá y dijo, oh my God, es como Durango cuando vas en las carreteras y todas las montañas. She's like, miras todo y no hay ninguna casa o nada. She's like, how pretty it is. And look, you can actually see the view right now. On our hike, it looks like we found some more wildflowers now. So again, we're going to use our book and see if we can identify it. So, you know, this flower, it's almost like a lilac purple, and then it has these little like pink little lines coming out of the middle. So let's take a look. So we want to again go, you know, color coordinated, right? We're in our purple pink category. And because of the colors we mentioned, right, it's like a pinkish lilac color, and it does have that like magenta lines. And because of the leaves are almost like a carrot top would look like, right? So it's a long beaked, really? My names are not the best at them, but you can see there it is. And somebody can please let me know how you say that. But it identifies the flower and the leaf, and it does look like a match. So it looks like we've like confirmed matched one with our guide here. So that's awesome. So hopefully we can find some more, and we can use this guide to help identify some more of these wildflowers here at Sierra Azul Preserve. It looks like we found a nice little patch of another flower here, and this is a very common one that a lot of people know, but it's the California poppy, and you can tell right by the shape of the poppy, and then it has again almost those leaves, the leaf of a carrot would look like, the California poppy there, and see if we can find it. But when the petals fall off of it, it leaves this really cool like little pod, and they call it a poppy, right? Because when the seeds are going to disperse, it pops. So let's see if we can find me those. I'm not seeing any here, but hopefully maybe when we continue on the trail, we can find one, we can show you. So it is a really cool sound to hear. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll be able to probably see a poppy pod popping, you can hear it. So we'll continue going and see if we find one. We'll show that to you guys. So this flower here looks like almost like an orangey yellow. So let's take a look and see if we can identify it with this guide here. So we're going to go to orange and yellow. So here's our orange and yellow page. And it looks like actually it's the first one here, which is a sticky monkey flower. You can see by the flower, it kind of has that same, almost like a violet shape. And then it's kind of like a bush-like. And this flower I actually know, right? It's a native flower here. And actually it's called sticky monkey flower, right? Because if you touch the leaf, the bottom of it is kind of sticky. So you can actually, feel that it sticks to your hand. So there's a whole bunch of it here on this hillside. It can get into a really big bush and has these really beautiful flowers, and it is native here, which this book, all of the flowers that are on here are mostly all native, which is really nice. So we found another wildflower here, but we're kind of puzzled because it hasn't bloomed yet. It has a very almost aromatic smell to it. The only one that I can see that it kind of looks like is Yerba Santa, but I can't really identify it because its flower is not bloomed yet. So this is definitely one that we'll probably post on iNaturalist, and we'll see if somebody can help us try to ID it, because the point of coming out here is we're learning, right? We're using some tools to help us, but we don't always have to know what's out here. But the lucky thing is here on this hillside, there's tons of wildflowers. We already had identified all that sticky monkey flower, and there's a whole bunch of bushes of it on there. I'm not completely sure, but I think that might be sage, this other one here. But we do have some other flowers, which there's some there, but we'll look over here. So we get on the trail to take a look at. This one looks like it's half already had bloomed. Looks like it has these little like blue flowers on it. So we'll look at the blue. It looks like it's actually the called the chia sage, which I've actually haven't heard of before, right? The leaves are exactly just like that, and it's part of the salvia family, which is really cool. So let's go take a look and see if we can find some more wildflowers. I'm already seeing some cool butterflies, so see if we can maybe take a quick peek at one of those and get a nice shot of it. Some more beautiful sticky monkey flower. And then right here, there's a really cute orange little flower. So we'll take a look in that area, and it looks like it's like a pink red, it says. So this is called a Scarlet Pimpernel. And this might look familiar because it grows in a lot of people's yards. And it does note here that it is a non-native. So it is an invasive species. So it does easily populate over natives. Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District does a really good job of providing, like, having service projects to kind of help remove some of these invasive species. So I know definitely they have projects going throughout a lot of their different preserves. You know, there's some service projects that we have done with them, and there's always opportunities to do those service projects, you know, as signing up as a volunteer for them too. So it's also something to look at if you want to, like, pull some weeds, right? It's fun to do it here at a preserve instead of in your backyard sometimes. So it looks like we found some more wildflowers. There's some actually on either side, and it looks like they're the same, but we'll double check. This is a nice little beautiful purplish blue flower. So it kind of almost looks like that long-beaked filiary that we had seen. This one here is actually Seadrill Spear. It's really pretty. It doesn't have much, looks like, of a leaf. So you really have to identify it by the flower. But I mean, there's a lot on this hillside here. So it looks like the dispersal range is kind of all up here on this hill and a little bit down on this side. You can kind of see where the, you know, the seeds from, you know, last year's wildflowers kind of migrated to. And of course, you might see some randomly because there are critters, right, that kind of help spread these seeds to other areas. But it looks like they've kind of been contained to this area here because we hadn't seen any anywhere else on the trail. So these are really beautiful. Nice little pop of color on the trail because you can really just see them all along this hillside. It's really pretty. So right now we can see it's kind of shady area, right? We're kind of going through before more kind of grassland meadow, right? Really open, a lot of light, especially on the hillside area. So that's where we had a lot of, you know, wildflowers that were really, you know, vibrant. They do well in the sun. There are some wildflowers that do well here in this really like woodland, almost riparian area because it's like a dried up creek here. We have some miner's lettuce here. This one is just one that I know. It's one of the few that I know that does well in like shady area like this. We'll take a look here. We can see it has a dainty little flower and a really nice, almost like a lettuce. It is a native plant. You'll see it, you'll find it a lot in these really shady areas. People do eat that. I'm not going to eat any of that. But it's a really dainty little flower, and it's a beautiful little wildflower here.
All right, Jennifer, what did you find?
Well, one, I found a whole bunch of beautiful butterflies over here, which you can kind of see one there on actually the wildflower that we're going to look at right now. So there's wildflower right here, has a really long stem, and then a little cluster of white flowers. This one can be easily identified by its leaves. It has very distinct leaves even when it's not blooming. This is the common yarrow. It has like these really soft, almost like fern-like little leaves that come out of it, and then a really beautiful white cluster of flowers on the top. It's really, really pretty, and there's still that butterfly is just hanging out there, enjoying it. So looks like we have some more yarrow here. We just identified it. There's a whole nice little batch of it here, which is really pretty. Actually, this piece of yarrow right here is growing right next to some poison oak, and you can really see right here that it's really shiny. And that's a great thing to remember, right? We want to get close to that flower and get a really good picture of it, right? We want to be careful because we really don't want to touch that poison oak. So it's always best to observe with the eyes and just keep our distance and make sure we're staying on the trail. So this is a nice hillside here. It has lots of greenery. It looks like it's facing more in the shade, so it doesn't get much sun. We have these beautiful little white flowers, almost like it's growing on a vine. It almost reminds me of like the morning glory, right? That my mom loved. But like the blue one, this is like the white one. There's two different kinds. The flowers look almost identical. The leaves on this one, and there's a lot of poison oak here, has almost like a actual like vine look to it, like a common vine from like a home would have, and it's really green instead of the other one's almost like a bluish white. So this one is the Modoc morning glory. It is a vine, and it is a native, so that's really pretty. And it seems like it does well here in a shady area, not in a lot of the sun area that we had seen before. So we came across another wildflower. This is one that people don't really, consider like or would think, right, that it would be. But we talked a little bit about poison oak, right? Is hierba venenosa. Here is a big, almost like bush-like of poison oak, and it actually has berries right now, and that berries will provide food for the deer around here. It's really nice to see it when it's blooming. It's really pretty. Pues gracias. Thank you for coming on this wildflower hike with us here at the Sierra Azul Open Space Preserve with partnership with Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District and Latino Outdoors. Gracias. Ciao.
That was great.
All right.
Awesome. Welcome back. We hope you really enjoyed that and had a chance to learn something new. I also want to point out that Brian created all the music himself. And so that's a special touch to that video. He produced all that music. So we really appreciate that, Brian. And we're right on time. This is now the time for our Q&A session. And this is the time where we're going to be answering all of your questions that you have related to this video on wildflowers, or just in general, any questions you might have for us in general. Feel free to ask them in the chat box, and we will try to get to as many as we can during this time. We already received a few, so we'll just go ahead and get started. I want to start out with this first question just to get to know our panelists here a little bit more. Here's the first question. What is your favorite park or preserve, and why? And anyone can start answering.
So I can start if you want. My favorite preserve here in the Bay Area is actually the Bear Creek Redwoods, which I think Luis actually shouted out in the comments too. What I really like is that it's really close by. So I live in Sunnyvale. It's just like a 20-25 minute drive to there, and you can see redwoods. I don't have to drive all the way up north. I don't have to drive further into the Santa Cruz Mountains. It's just a 20-minute drive in. See redwoods, super shaded, super nice. It's always nice and fresh, even if it's a warm day. So it's perfect for summer days.
Yeah, Jen,
I can go. So one of my favorite parks preserves right now during COVID, I really liked actually that Sierra Azul preserve. It's actually the Kennedy Trail, and I used to back in the day. I used to hike that a lot because it's one of the parks that's actually that trail is dog friendly. So my dog Birdie and me would always be on that trail. It's one of my favorites. Also too, because it's kind of off the beaten path, right? There's not a really big parking lot to get there, so you really kind of have to see it on the map and kind of figure out where the entrance for it is. But before COVID, and I also actually worked at this Mid-Pin Preserve is at Rancho San Antonio. Is another one that I love. I do classroom stuff there at Deer Hollow Farm, so it's really dear to my heart, even though it right now it's really impacted. So it's not really a park that I go to try to hike, but it is also a really nice local park to me here. It's literally like less than 8 miles away. It has some awesome trails, anything from like beginners to really like advanced. It has tons of amazing trails, and that's also one of my favorites.
Esme, would you like to go?
Oh, sure. Yeah, for the heat, I really like going to Russian Ridge Open Space in Redwood City. If you want to look for late blooming wildflowers, right now is a good time. You'll probably see milkweed. You'll probably see the tar weeds, which have a really strong aroma and give a very characteristic smell to our grasslands. And for the coolness, I love going to Purísima Creek. It brings out my inner child. We were just there with my nieces, my daughter, and my family last week, and it's a magical place. Every child should go to Purísima Creek at least once. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback off that. Purísima Creek is one of my favorites as well. And it's really perfect for the summer because it's so shaded all the time under the redwoods that even though it might be 80 or 90 degrees at home, it feels still very cool in that preserve for the most part. So I really enjoy that one. I also really, like Russian Ridge just for the lots of variety of wildflowers there. But, every preserve is different and they all have something special. So I would encourage you to just find something that's close by and explore it. And you're going to be pleasantly surprised of what you find there. Because I don't think there's a preserve that is not interesting. They're all interesting in their own ways. So it's hard to answer that question.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I have another question here that is just more clarifying for the audience. Talking about the video and where we went. Which trail were you guys on in Sierra Azul? Where is Sierra Azul Open Space Preserve, and where can I find the directions and how to, get there?
Yeah, so I did mention a little bit, and just because about my other question answer about the Sierra Azul being one of my favorites. It's called the Kennedy Trail. So Sierra Azul has a lot of different parking lot entrances to it. This one's a little bit closer to the Los Gatos side. There's another part of it kind of closer by Mount Amanam. This one, with a lot of the parks, right, especially like the little off trails, easiest way to find the directions for those is actually on the MidPen website, because a lot of these locations don't have an actual address, but MidPen has done a great job of having all those parking lots and entrance points pinned with GPS. So you literally just have to enter in your address and say, this is where I want to go. And it gives you the directions exactly how to get there, which is really helpful when it's your first time going there, right? And that's how, for me, I found this place and explored it, was finding it through that GPS, because or else I wouldn't have known, right? Because there's no actual address you can enter in to get there. So that is the best place to do that. It is South San Jose, right? It is the furthest south preserve that MidPen does have. But it is definitely one of my favorites. And we'll link the information too for you guys to easily access that.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of that, the website is such a great tool. Every time I go out to one of the preserves, especially for MidPen, they have a lot of really great information on if the trails are open, if the trail is, if you see a lot of people, what you should do. It tells you accessibility sites. The maps even show you horse trails versus, biking trails. It's just, MidPen has done such an amazing job of trying to get all of those resources on the website. So definitely the website is one of the best tools you can use.
Oh, and I will mention, right, MidPen has actually also updated their maps to actually show the more accessible trails at their parks. They have further trails that are wider, right? So you can practice social distancing a lot better. And they made them into these green highlighted, which is really great, right? If somebody's really worrying about being too close, because some trails are really narrow, going onto the website and finding those is really helpful. And I'm really appreciative that they updated that. So that was really great of them.
Yeah, I actually just noticed that I went to Bear Creek Redwoods a few weeks ago, and pretty much that all of that space has that green highlight, except for this one part on the loop back, which was really, really cool to see. So
yeah, they did an amazing job at that. And I know that took a lot to do because they had to go through to each one of them and update it, but it was really appreciated. It was a really great resource.
Awesome. Thanks for highlighting that, Jen and Brian. Yeah, I'm glad that it's useful. And yeah, our webpage does have a lot of great information, so please check it out. I'm going to go on to the next question here. When is the best month of the year to find wildflowers in the area, and where are some good places to see them?
So we recorded this video back in May, right? So during that time frame is usually the best. So like springtime is usually the best to see like those really bright wildflowers. Although sometimes you can see some of those carry out throughout the summer, like sticky monkey flower. Sometimes you can see it on the trails up till July, August, and I think Esme, you mentioned that you saw some in like October, November last year, right?
Last year I spent all of August through December, actually August through January, really keeping my eye out for whatever was blooming. And I want to say that even though the peak is between March and June, you can see California wildflowers all year. There's something to see all year round.
Yes, no, that's exactly right. I think the peak is in the springtime, March through May, June, but it really depends on where you're looking. And there's always different seasons for different flowers. So yeah, if you go out there any month, any season, you're bound to see something. I was at one of the local parks, and I still saw some California poppies. So definitely, they're still there even now.
Yeah, I know for the fact that they grow inside in the cement cracks, right? I mean, they are one of the most hardy, beautiful flowers we have.
And I know for me, some good places to see them every year can change, right? Depending on how much rain we got. I'll post some forums and stuff, but there are some places with, like, people watching for reporting, right, of wildflowers every year. I got lucky one year with the Desert USA. We were up in Sequoia, and then all of a sudden, like, it started to rain on us, and we were just like, you know what, let's go somewhere else. And I had kind of looked through that forum, and I was like, let's go to this other spot. And we were lucky to see this amazing super bloom. I've never seen something like that. Like, as soon as we stepped out of the car, it smelled like flores, like everywhere. You could just smell them. It was amazing. So looking at forums and stuff like that really can help you kind of figure out what in different areas, right, blooms and wildflowers are happening, because one area could be blooming and another area, even close by, could still not be blooming. So definitely keeping an eye on those really is helpful. And people post, right? Something people love doing, right? If they see flowers, they'll post them and say, hey, there's these flowers blooming in this park. So definitely keep an eye out for those, because those are some of the times, the best times, because you get sometimes like the peak of just when they're coming up before everyone's kind of already been there.
Yeah. That's a great suggestion, and that's something that I haven't checked out before, but I'm definitely interested in checking out more forums to get more like up-to-date information and photos too. So we have another question here. Why is it important not to pick flowers?
So this kind of has a couple of different answers, I think. I could talk about one of them, and I'll let the rest of the group kind of talk about some of the other things. But just talking in terms of like strictly from leave no trace principles, part of leave no trace is making sure that you're not taking anything, right? You're only taking, leaving footprints, taking memories, or taking pictures, right? So that's one part of it. There is another part that it has more to do with kind of the dispersion of the seeds and everything. So I know, Jennifer, Jennifer might have a little bit more of information on that.
Well, because, right, part of Latino Conservation Week, right, is conservation, and our part of not picking flowers is doing conservation, right? Making sure that those wildflowers are going to be able to reproduce, right? So allow them to turn into seeds so that those seeds will be there for the next season when there's good rain, and those wildflowers can then bloom again. So, that's part of us, right? Not picking those flowers is part of conservation. So I think it's really important. I'm sure Esme also has some awesome tips too.
Oh, gosh. I took part in the California Naturalist certification last year now, And it was something I highly recommend for everybody to do. But one of the things I learned is that not only does California have one of the highest biodiversity of all the US as far as plants, but we also have the highest number of endemic, which is like they only grow here. And some of those are rare or endangered. And so it's really important that we look, but we don't take, just for those reasons that you guys have mentioned. When I was really young, I took a class at the San Francisco Botanical Garden. It was a plant taxonomy class, and we went to San Bruno Mountain for one of our field hikes. And I'm always trailing behind. You guys know this. I'm always really far behind the group taking pictures and looking at stuff. So I was doing the same thing then, and I ended up picking a pod. And I ran up super eager to the professor, and I'm like, "Oh, I found this. What can you help me identify this?" And he's like, "That's one of our rare lilies. This is why I don't recommend you pick anything. So take it from me. Save yourself the embarrassment, and don't pick the wildflowers." I learned quick.
Yeah, no, those are all completely correct answers. I would just add that, these plants out in nature, out in the preserves, they're actually food for wildlife and animals that live there. So picking a plant, even though it doesn't seem like it'd be very significant because there's so many other ones, it is taking away food from the animals that do live there and depend on it for their, daily life. So just it is important to kind of look with your eyes and not to pick wildflowers and just enjoy them when you're there in nature.
I love that point, Carmen.
And always take photos.
I love that point. That is really important to remember. That is their safe way, right? Yeah, what would you do if they took away your safe way, right? Like you wouldn't feel good about it. So I like that. Thanks, Carmen.
Yeah. So we have another question here. When out on the trail, do you see people following the rules?
I think I've experienced most people following the rules. Yeah. The only one that is a little bit difficult is the 6 feet apart. I know not everyone tends to follow it, and I will admit that I am a little bit guilty of that myself. That is a little bit harder to do, right? Especially when you're on like kind of narrower trails, right? What I always try to do is try to get off of the step out a little bit and try to create as much distance. But with regards to masks and everything, I've definitely seen people wear a mask, and then what they'll do is what I've seen some people do is when they're passing by, they'll wear it. And then, from like 20 feet away, they'll start to wear it. And then we pass. And then about 20 feet further out, they'll take it off again, which, yeah, I don't know. But I think I've seen most people follow rules. People tend to not pick. Yeah.
I know for me, I was at Rancho this week, and even during the week, right? In the mornings, there's a lot of people. And so, knowing like really crowded parks, sometimes trying to follow those rules is really hard, especially when like park like that gets really crowded. And Midpen has done some great jobs of having signage, right? Like if parking lot's full, that means the park is full. Like, try to find maybe another park closer to you that you can go and explore the trails. But people parking from really far and walking in. So it just really like causes this like bottleneck of those really accessible trails that they have. Sometimes, it gives people that would be their local park to go to, not having access to actually go out onto the trails just because they don't feel comfortable because it's just a lot of people congregating at once. But other than that, there's a lot of other trails that are really off the beaten path. I mean, this one that we went on this trail for Sierra Azul is a great one. Even in the beginning peak when everyone was out hiking, this is when we did this video. And as you can tell from the video, we didn't really pass many people. it has a really wide trail. And I know somebody mentioned, like, was this trail wheelchair accessible? I mean, I could say it could be, right. It has a little bit too much hills. I'm not sure if like somebody can push a wheelchair up, but MidPen has they've done a really great job of actually having filtered through that you can go on the website and see all the parks that are wheelchair accessible that you can go to find those parks that make sure we provide access to everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, we have another great question here. Any plans to lead hikes for the community, and how would you do it differently when it becomes safe? That's a good question that maybe we all don't have a really solid answer yet, but we can try, and I can definitely chime in after you guys.
Yeah, I know for me right now, right, mental health is really important. And I know that's just like an added anxiety of trying to gather kind of outside your bubble with too many people. I know that for us here in the Bay Area, right, we're really trying to limit and trying to be as safe as possible and be as cautious as possible, following the rules and not really gathering too much, right? So that's why we're trying to do more virtual things like this, right? So we can stay connected still to our community and, engage and try to help you with resources. But to know when exactly, I can't say for sure, right? It's really going to just be by when it actually we see the numbers changing and us too, right? As leaders, most of our leaders are volunteers too, right? That they feel comfortable going out on the trails with a group of people.
Yeah, and to add on to that, right now we don't have any plans to lead a hike in person, especially because we don't know what the situation looks like with COVID-19, right? It's one of those things where we thought we were flattening the curve, and now we're seeing an increase in cases again, right? And so it's becoming a lot more risky. We don't want to expose our community to that, especially because we're starting to see that a lot of times BIPOC communities are the ones that end up being a little bit more at risk for, COVID, right? So we're kind of turning more toward our national leadership, and heeding their recommendations of, hey, look, like when we actually start creating hikes and outings again, we want to make sure that every single LO chapter can do it, not just, like here, there, and sparsed out, right? So it is more of kind of like a national conversation that all of us as leaders are having, and we're trying to determine what that looks like. But unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to do anything in the near future.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, Brian. I mean, the fact that we Latino communities are being heavily impacted by COVID-19, and to take, our folks out right now might not be the best if we are trying to flatten the curve. So that's just a good reminder to everybody as well to keep, social distancing 6 feet apart, put on your mascara as your face covering in whatever style you want. Just make sure they're offering the right protection and washing your hands frequently so we can get out of this and see each other and be out there.
Yeah, and I think Luis just said something really well. It's about solidarity between all of the LO regional teams, right? At the end of the day, we are a big community, right? Somos una comunidad. And we want to feel like we're a big community, right? So that solidarity and that understanding and that compassion towards everyone is definitely important.
Yes, no, I totally agree. And thank you everyone for sharing all those thoughts. For MidPen, we are on pause for our group activities and permit hikes as well, and we don't know when they will be back open, but we really want to just make sure it is safe before we do open it up. So, right now we are pivoting to try to do more virtual events like this with our community and for the community, and so that's why this is just a great opportunity to connect with a broad range of people. I've been on so many hikes with Jennifer and Brian in the preserves, and we'll get a good group of people, 20, 30, 40 people, but on this online virtual platform we get an opportunity to reach hundreds of people at one time, and people can watch on their own time you know, and engage and learn from this experience. So it really does allow us to reach an even broader audience, and it's just more accessible. So it is great that way. So yeah. And so we are coming close to our 6:30 end time. I do want to just ask one last question to close us out for the Q&A. And this is going to be our very last question, and then we're going to talk a little bit more to wrap it up. So the question is, let me find it. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
Okay, and while you're doing that, I just wanted to tell Jorge, one of our board members for Latino Outdoors, happy birthday. I know that he's watching. Just wanted to say feliz cumpleaños.
Feliz cumpleaños. Estas son las mañanitas que cantaba. Feliz cumpleaños, Jorge.
Getting texts from him too. So. All right.
Yeah, so our very last question for you all is, why is it important for us as Latinx to learn more about plants in our local preserves?
May I take a stab at this?
Yes, go ahead.
Because I am passionate about this. I think Jennifer mentioned it in her video, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Jennifer's mom. You know, one of the things about getting out there and bringing in a different cultural perspective, a different perspective from a place you grew up, is to find similarities between where you're from and where you happen to be at. And not only, you know, country-wise, but across time as well, right? The plants around our local, and especially in mid-pen preserves, are ancestral lands of Ohlone people that lived here for tens of thousands of years, right, before colonization. And to be able to get to know these places, these habitats, they weren't wild, they were tended. Soaproot is one of my favorite plants. And this past spring, I noticed how soaproot, when it grows in a big cluster, looks like a little milpa. And so I was like, oh, it's a tiny milpa. Like, this is my cousins here, my indigenous, you know, cousins to the north, were tending a different type of milpa, right? This is an important, the plant of 1,000 uses, I like to call it. But yeah, it allows us to make connections across time, space, with each other. So that is why it's super important for us to get out there, and also for opportunity to go into the sciences, opportunity to contribute your unique perspective, your unique cultural, all the value that you bring with you to these spaces. So that's why it's important for us to be out there.
And I'll piggyback on that, right? Like, growing up, that's how I grew up, right? Mi mamá siempre, we would even just go walk around, and she would always be, and as you heard in the video, right, siempre, mi mamá en las sociedades de Durango, right, should always bring up like, oh, estas flores, you know, we would use these plants for these things, right? We would use, you know, different things, and you know, I try to bring that into our community with Latino Outdoors, right? Because I see those connections that we make with each other, and how we can, you know, build more that community. Because my mom will start talking about one thing, right, and then, you know, she met like Brian's mom, right? Están, ay, mira, right? And they're talking, and then my mom's always saying, ay, la mamá de Brian, right? You know, qué amable, qué bonita, you know, and it's like building that community. And I think it's important, like, when we can share those things with plants, right? And being outside and having those stories from our culture, right? Because her seeing one plant, she'll start going on these like long stories and conversations, right? And our cultura is about storytelling, right? And sharing, doing that with plants. That's how I grew up, and I'm so happy that I can bring my mom on these trails and do that with her, and have, you know, my community kids to share those stories too and get to learn them. But yeah, being connected more with nature, right, in those preserves, and, you know, appreciating it more for what they offer, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, you all said pretty much everything that I was thinking too, right? It's a way of connecting with our cultura. Right, and Stephanie said it really well right there in our comments too, right? For me, it's been another way that I've been able to connect with my own kind of Mexican heritage, to my own ancestral roots, right? One of my flowers or one of my favorite plants is California Bay, right? I love the medicinal uses of it. We use it in our cocina, right? It can be used in so much, and it's like it's connecting, it's connecting those dots and kind of going beyond it.
Awesome answers, guys. Thank you so much. That wraps up our Q&A. We do have one more slide to show you guys before we wrap up our event. We hope you stay connected with us, and yeah, please keep in touch with us. Here are our websites. For MidPen, it's openspace.org, and for Latino Outdoors, latino.outdoors.org. We are all on social media, so please follow us, like us, and stay connected. MidPen's handle on our channels is MidPen Open Space. And for Latino Outdoors, there is a national Latino Outdoors social media, which is just at Latino Outdoors. And then also there's the Bay Area chapter, which Jennifer and Brian and Esme and all of us here are part of. And they are, that handle is LO San Francisco Bay Area. Anything else to add, Brian, Jennifer, Esme?
Yeah, I'll just add, for those of you who are watching from out of the Bay Area, there is an LA chapter there, and they have their own Instagram handle as well. Pretty much every chapter has their own Instagram handle. And so if you want to learn more about how you can be in that community specifically for that region, just take a look. They always post their own events as well. And those typically end up getting posted on the national page as well. We do also want to add, for those of you who are still with us, that if you do want to volunteer with Latino Outdoors, we are going to be copying a Google Doc if you want to volunteer. So let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay.
I went and did it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll look forward for that. Yeah, we'll look through that form for a while. We'll have it, and we'll try to also put it onto our Instagram too, and our Facebook, to make it more accessible if you need to find it. But yeah, I know right now things have changed, right? We're not really doing in-person events, so doing more virtual things, and we would love to try to connect with our community and get different volunteers that can help us doing more virtual things like this.
And I just want to say happy Latino Conservation Week. This is the first time I get to celebrate it. So good with you guys. But I'm looking forward to just making this every year, and I want to see everybody share their adventures and tag us and let us know what they're doing. So super excited. Thank you guys.
Cool. Thank you so much. I hope you have the rest of your day. Thank you.
Gracias. Adios. Bye.
Thank you.